Today we are doing section 4.5. Our objective, I can solve word problems using polynomial equations. Example 1. Two numbers differ by 5 and have a product of 84. Find the numbers. So step number 1 is to define our variables. So we're going to let x equal, I'm going to have it equal the larger number. Okay? Well, if it's the larger number, then the other number is going to be x minus 5. That's going to be the smaller number. Okay? So I've represented two numbers that differ by 5, so I've done the first part. And then it says have a product of 84. Okay? So x times x minus 5, that's the product of the two numbers, equals 84. Solve the equation, distribute the x, so we're going to get x squared minus 5x equals 84. Set the quadratic equal to 0, so subtract 84 from both sides. So I have x squared minus 5x minus 84 equals 0. Now I have a trinomial, and so I'm going to need to factor. There's no common factors, so I go straight to my x. And I ask myself, what times what is 84? And that has a difference of negative 5, or a difference of 5. And so I believe it's going to be negative 12 and positive 7. If I multiply those two numbers together, I get negative 84. If I add those two numbers together, I get negative 5. So that's going to factor to x minus 12, x plus 7. Set each factor equal to 0. So we get x equals 12 or x equals negative 7. Now we come back. This is why it's important to define our variables. Now we come back here, and if x is 12, then 12 minus 5 is going to be 7. So one pair of numbers is 12 and 7. But if x is negative 7, then negative 7 minus 5 from here, that's going to represent the smaller number, is negative 12. So there are two sets of numbers that will work. So our answer is the numbers are 12 and 7, or negative 7 and negative 12. So that's our answer to this problem. So notice that I have two numbers that differ by 5, and their product is going to be 84. So that does work. All right, example 2. The sum of two numbers is 9. If the sum of the sum of their squares is 101, find the numbers. Well, again, let's define our variables. Let x equal the first number, and y equal the second number. But we want our equation to be in the same variable. So we know that x plus y has to equal 9. That's what the first sentence says. So now solve that equation for y, and so we get y is equal to 9 minus x. So this now represents the second number. Right? Now we set up our equation. It says the sum of their squares. So the square of the first number plus the square of the second number is 101. So this is going to be x squared plus 9 minus x times 9 minus x equals 101. x squared plus 81 minus 9x minus 9x minus x squared equals 101. Okay. Oops, I made a mistake. This should be a plus x squared, because negative x times negative x is a positive x squared. So collect like terms, we have 2x squared minus 18x plus 81 equals 101. Set it equal to 0. So we're going to get 2x squared minus 18x minus 20 equals 0. Then, now we're ready to factor. Notice that there is a common factor of 2 in each one of the terms. So I'm going to factor out the 2. Then I'm going to factor that. So what times what is negative 10? That adds up to negative 9. And so it's going to be negative 10 and positive 1. Set each factor equal to 0. So I get x equals 10, or I get x equals negative 1. So now, if x is 10, I want to find my y value. So I come back here, and if x is 10, then y has to be 9 minus 10, or negative 1. Okay? But if x is negative 1, then y has to be 9 minus a negative 1, or 10. Well, I get the same two numbers, so my answers, the answer is 10 and negative 1. So we would write our answer as the two numbers are 10 and negative 1. All right, moving on, example 3. The length of a rectangle is 1 meter less than twice the width. So first thing we want to do, before we do anything else, is draw a rectangle. Okay? And it says the length of the rectangle is 1 meter less than twice the width. So we know less about the width, so that's going to be our variable. And we know the length is 1 meter less than twice the width. Twice the width is 2w, and 1 meter less than that is minus 1. Okay? Then it says the area is 55 meters squared. So this is 55 meters squared. All right, well, how do we find the area of a rectangle? It's length times width equals area. So our length is 2w minus 1. Our width is w, and we know that has to equal 55. So we have 2w squared minus w plus 55. Oops, shouldn't be plus, equals 55. Set that equal to 0, so we're going to subtract 55 from both sides. So we have 2w squared minus w minus 55 equals 0. All right, now in this particular problem, we have a leading coefficient. We have 3 terms. So remember that we take the 2 and multiply it times the 55, and so that's going to be 110, a negative 110, and a negative 1. So what times what is negative 110 but adds up to negative 1? Well, it's going to be negative 11 and positive 10. Okay? Now remember, because of this leading coefficient, remember we did this multiplying, so we have to write where did this come from. So that's 2w squared minus 11w plus 10 w minus 55 equals 0. And now we're going to factor by grouping. So we're going to have 2w squared minus 11w plus 10w minus 55 equals 0. The common factor here is w. The common factor in the second parenthesis is 5. Now our common factor is 2w minus 11, so that leaves us w plus 5. So we have it completely factored. Set each factor equal to 0. Solve for w. Okay, now here's where we have to pay attention. Can we have a negative width? Is that possible? No, it's not possible, so we reject this answer, because that won't work. So the only one that will work is this one. So the question is, find the perimeter. So the perimeter is the distance around. So I have 11 halves here, 11 halves here. This is 2 times 11 halves minus 1. And this is 2 times 11 halves minus 1. So this adds up to 10. This adds up to 10. So if I add up all the sides, I have 10 plus 11 halves plus 11 halves plus 10. So I have 20 plus 22 halves, which is 20 plus 11, or 31. So we would say the perimeter of the rectangle is 31 meters. Okay. All right, and one more example. The shorter leg of a right triangle is 17 centimeters less than the longer leg. If the hypotenuse is 25 centimeters long, find the perimeter of the rectangle. So again, our first step is to draw the picture. So we want to draw a right triangle. It says the shorter leg of a right triangle is 17 centimeters less than the longer leg. So we're going to let x equal the longer leg. The shorter leg is going to be x minus 17. And we know the hypotenuse, remember the hypotenuse is the side opposite the right angle, is 25 centimeters. Okay? Well, for this one, we have to remember something about right triangles. We have to remember that a squared plus b squared equals c squared. Okay? So, leg squared plus leg squared equals hypotenuse squared. That's what it says. So now, that's x squared plus x minus 17 squared equals 25 squared. So there's our equation. So this is x squared plus, we have to FOIL this one out. Okay, so we get x squared plus x squared minus 17x minus 17x plus 289, because 17 times 17 is 289, equals 625, because 25 squared is 625. Collect our like terms, 2x squared minus 34x plus 289 equals 625. Subtract 625 from both sides. get 2x squared minus 34x minus 336 equals 0. Now we're ready to factor. Notice that there's a common factor of 2, so I factor out the 2. We want to do this, factor out the common factor, because it gives us a number that's easier, or numbers that are easier to factor. Okay? Now we need to know what multiplies to negative 168, but adds up to negative 17. And it might take a while to figure that out, but it's actually a negative 24 and a positive 7. Okay? So this is going to factor to x minus 24 and x minus 7. Set each factor equal to 0. I don't need to set the 2 equal to 0 because that doesn't make sense. Oops, this should be a positive 7, so this is going to be negative 7 here. Okay? Now, again, is it possible for the leg, one of the legs, to have a length of negative 7? No, it's not. So we have to reject that one. So our x, the only value you can use for x is 24. So now we're going to go back, and this is 24. This is going to be 24 minus 17. 24 minus 17 is 7. So perimeter is going to be 24 plus 7 plus 25. And if we add that all up, we get 56, and that's centimeters. So our answer is the perimeter is 56 centimeters.